You're listening to a Soul One podcast.
From my favorite kind of episode to your favorite kind of episode, it's all about the fans today.
Yes, you hate our fans and love the Oscars. No, I'm only kidding. I assume you like the fan questions a little bit. You're the one who came up with the segment.
I don't think I invented fan questions. I think I came up with the idea of us doing this every so often. Yeah,
you opted to have people write in. Like that was
That's
your
right.
idea.
That is right. That is correct.
But this episode, this format, 100% fan questions, the mailbag. Yes, that is 100% my favorite episode. I love it.
I mean, hate is such a strong word. It's an accurate one, but it's a strong word.
You don't hate the fans, you hate everyone. There's a word for that, a misogynist, or is that when you hate women?
Isn't that when you just hate women specifically?
But you're the one
where
a
different word where you hate everyone.
Yeah, you hate everyone. There is a term for that, but so the fans are just fair game when it comes to your hate.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know if I think about anybody enough to hate them. You know, like I just don't think I would say I'm a well-wisher. I don't wish anyone any particular harm.
But you also don't wish them well.
Yeah, exactly. Tiny bit of harm, whatever. Tiny bit of success, whatever. Yeah, it didn't really change me.
And on the flip side, I love the fans.
That's right.
100%. I love you all. I am always pestering Mike to open the email, to look at the questions we have. And because he doesn't do that, we then periodically have to have an episode just fan questions to catch up. And we might not even get to all of your questions. That doesn't mean that I don't love you. It just means that Mike waited too long and there was too many questions for the episode. So we'll see how things go.
Yeah.
Does that sound accurate, Mike?
Sure. Yeah, I guess
so. All right. Are you ready with the first question? Are we going to dive just right in?
We are, but you know what I just remembered I forgot to do?
What's that?
Tell Katie Wilson she won.
Oh, she messaged me on Instagram.
Oh, good. Okay.
She messaged me and said, I won, ? And I said, you sure did.
Okay, because I should reach out to her so we can set up her episode. I can just now was thinking, I know she listens to the show.
I don't know if she saw it on Instagram or if she listened live. How fun would it have been? I should have asked her. How fun would it have been if she was listening to the episode and found out that way? But I think she might have just found out on Instagram. But either way, I said she can come on and she can pick the theme. So yes, please reach out to her and coordinate that.
Yes, I will do so. Okay, let's do some fan questions here. So these all come from various listeners. There's many different ways that you can reach out to us. I thought I'd quickly review that for those wondering. We still do have screeninginkingston@gmail.com. So you can definitely email there. You don't have to not email there. I think we're not going to see it. We will definitely check, again, sporadically, screeninginkingston@gmail.com. But if you also go to soul1arts.ca, that's SOL, onearts.ca, you can fill out basically a quick form, same that we had on the original website. So you can get it right through soul1.ca, soul1arts.ca. Or you can still go to screeninginkingston.com, that is still active, and fill out the form there. So there's lots of ways. You can even send us a social media message. We don't care. We'll find
Mike
it.
may or may not read it.
Yeah, I mean, regardless, it's not going to get read. But then we do episodes like today where we bring in your fan questions. I don't pre-warn Taylor what they are, and they're all intense. So we're going to have to figure through answers. And when I say intense, it means, Taylor, you're going to have to think.
Right. It isn't like a fact question where I will know the answer right away.
That's right.
It's thinking questions.
It's thinking about things you like in movies, which can sometimes be a 20 to 25-minute process depending upon how you're doing that day.
Yeah.
You have a hard time remembering people's names and movies that you like. And guess
Yep.
what? All these questions are themed to that.
People's names and things
That's
I
right.
like, I will not be able to answer. But let's
That's
go.
right.
Let's
Let's
do
do
it.
it. This one comes from Tayson.
Okay.
So Tayson says, "Hey gang, after hearing your discussion about Baby Girl and the statement that it's not a 5 a.m. movie, I'm wondering what is a 5 a.m. movie? I need 2 answers. 1, a movie you watch at 5 a.m. when you haven't slept all night. And 2, a movie you watch at 5 a.m. when you've slept, but you're up absurdly early." Interested to hear your thoughts. So we got to pick 2 movies here.
That's
One
a tough
where
one.
we haven't slept at all and we're watching a
Right.
movie at 5 a.m., which was my experience. And 2, you're up ridiculously early for some reason watching a movie at 5 a.m.
Okay, so I think the first genre where you're up all night, it's a sleepover or something of that nature, you know, kind of maybe you've been on a bender. You need to watch a cult favorite type movie. So that's my immediate answer. The first movie that came to mind, Mike, was The Room. Because that movie is so absurd, and I feel like at 5 a.m. the absurdity won't matter and you will just be vibing with it. That's what comes to mind without thinking too hard. But a cult movie would be the one and I don't mean a movie about cults, I mean like a cult favorite. How else do you describe that genre, Mike?
Cult classic.
Cult classic. Okay. So that would be my first answer. Then a movie that I'm up early. So in this case, I feel like I'm probably on an airplane or I'm at the airport waiting for an airplane. So I've had a relatively good night's sleep, or maybe I was a little bit excited. But it's very early. So I want a movie that is going to pass the time, but I don't have to pay attention too hard to, which to me is the airplane genre here on the show. I know Mike uses airplane it in a different way than I do, but for me, it's a movie that is kind of easy breezy. You don't really have to pay attention to. Maybe you've been meaning to watch that movie, but you haven't been dying to see it. So again, the first movie that comes to mind, and it might just be because it was recently on at the dentist and I watched it on an airplane, Sing. The animated movie.
I was not where I thought you were going. You could have said anything else.
With Taron Egerton, and he sings an Elton John song, and I think that's how Elton John cast him in Rocket Man, or in a roundabout way, because of that movie. So my answers would be, I'm going to lock them in, Mike. The Room, you haven't slept, it's 5 a.m., or you have slept, but you're up early, Sing.
Yeah, see, I think The Room's such an awful choice for 5 a.m. The things that goes through your mind, like the way your mind is when you haven't slept all night, I just don't think The Room is where you want to be, personally. Like, I feel like that's going to, like, really mess with you.
What, do you want a movie that you literally don't need to think, or like isn't
that
weird?
To me, yeah, to me, a great 5 a.m. movie when you haven't slept all night is like Anchorman.
True,
like
that I didn't.
Movies. Yeah.
Now that you say that, like a dumb comedy.
Yeah,
like
dumb comedy. Absolutely, like, it's gonna, it's gonna make you laugh. It's gonna be a comfort thing. Old school. The Other Guys.
Super bad.
Super bad. Maybe even the one with The Nice Guys. Maybe even something like that.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Wacky comedies. Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. Like those kinds of things, I think would work well. And then to me, when you have slept, and I like the premise of like, okay, you're up early, maybe you're excited about something, or you're waiting and you got to kill time. That's when I'm throwing on a superhero movie. Like, that's when I'm definitely throwing on like a Marvel movie, or maybe one of the original Spider-Man movies.
A movie you've seen a million times.
Yeah, that is just gonna, like, the movie's gonna just go so fast, and there you go, you've killed 2.5 hours. Like, I think that's a great way. Now, Taylor, do you want my short list of movies you shouldn't watch at 5 a.m.?
Baby Girl.
Yeah, well, Baby Girl, obviously. That's what started all this. The entire Twilight saga. Rock of Ages.
Okay, go on.
Mamma Mia. Burlesque. these are all movies I've watched at inopportune times.
I
Um,
feel like oh, your answers are so interesting because I feel like if you like Mamma Mia or Burlesque, those movies are fine at 5 a.m.
no, no, no. Things happen to you at 5 a.m. Uh, so no,
It's been
no.
a very I it's been a in all honesty, Mike, it has been a very long time since I've been up all night, like the way we're describing. I guess I've been up all night with George, but like at that point, time has no meaning, and I'm not watching
Yeah,
movies at 5 a.m.
it's only happened to me twice in the past like 4 or 5 years, and it just so happens to be in the past 2 months. And
You're
the
dumb
first
bad luck.
Yeah, like the first time was just bad luck because it had to do with my phone dying, and being completely gone. And like I had rehearsal, I think like 10 a.m. next morning. I didn't get home from what I was doing until like 2 a.m. anyway. So I'm like, okay, I either go to bed and risk missing no alarm because I also realized I don't have a backup alarm if my phone's gone, or I just stay up all night, and I opted to stay up all night. So that like wasn't my fault. That just is bad luck that happens. And again, don't watch the entire Twilight Saga. It's a bad idea. Okay, we gotta keep things moving here. We got more fan questions. I've already lost my place though. Already, this is going well.
We're already off the rails.
Okay, hold on. We got one from Nicole.
Got it.
Nicole, friend of Taylor and baby girl enthusiast.
Got it.
Why, hello there, Taylor and Mike. I found out this week that there's going to be a biopic made about one of my favorite icons, Candy Darling. This got me thinking about biopics, which are canonically a terrible genre for film, in my opinion. I don't remember if you answered this question on Screening in Kingston, but I'd love to know who would play you in a biopic and who would direct the biopic. So we have done this before, but we'll do it again.
Yeah, we're much older now. Ooh, I wish I had time because this is literally my worst nightmare, Mike. I haven't prepped this, and I don't know anyone's names, and I also don't.
Well, you can describe. That's always a fun game where you describe them to me, and I have to like guess.
Well, who did I say? Initially, way, way, way back, I said a skinny Jonah Hill or a fat Matt Damon.
That was for me.
That was for you. That was for you. Oh, but we're picking for ourselves.
This was not specific. I think it's just who would play you. I don't think we have to pick for each other again, but we can help each other out and give suggestions. But I think we're supposed to pick for ourselves.
I guess we're older now, so the actors would be older anyways. You originally picked Florence Pugh for me. I always like to flatter myself and think Carey Mulligan could play me. But I don't know. List some female actresses you think that.
I mean, this is a biopic. So the question would be, I think we have to first set the premise. At what point in time in your life would it make the most sense to have a biopic?
Right.
Because that would sort of answer that question. Because I think for me, the most interesting parts of my life were sort of the late theater career with Blue Canoe into not having Blue Canoe, going through the pandemic, and now ending up in Ottawa. Like, I think to me, I need someone who can span like 28 to 38. Like, I think that's a good.
And
that's
for
kind of
me, it would be finishing up my dissertation, trying to decide if I was going to become a nun or live in America.
So give me an age range.
How old was I? That was 8 years ago. So 26 to 32, not even 26 to 30 would be the most interesting years of my life, in and around there.
I'm looking up like female actresses around the age of 26. I'm basically throwing it together.
I don't know anyone who's that age.
Any of these people.
Sydney Sweeney's the only woman I know who's under 35.
I thought she's younger. Well,
I'm going to stick with our original. I'm going to stick with our original Florence Pugh because I feel like she's still in her early 30s but can play down.
Yeah, I would say so. I would say she can play down. She's definitely talented enough to do that. Yeah, I think that makes sense because yeah, she would be able to play. I would say mid-20s still,
Yeah.
and that wouldn't be
And I'm looking
that much of a
like,
stretch.
yeah. Elizabeth Olsen's an interesting actress, but she doesn't really play like comedy. I feel like there would have to be comedy in my
Yours would be a
biopic.
comedy.
Yeah, like a coming of age comedy.
I've got
Like an indie. Yeah.
I've got some director options for you if that's the
Okay,
genre.
shoot.
So
Like an
you are saying
indie coming of age comedy. Coming of age
yeah,
comedy. Yeah.
yeah. So I was thinking of the director who I just can't remember the name of the movie. Where it's the one about the boys who are coming of age, but it's a relatively new one. Jacob
Oh,
Tremblay's in it.
that comedy. I think it's
Yeah,
called
that comedy.
Is it called Bad Boys or Good Boys?
Is it called Bad Boys? No, it's got to be
Good
called
Boys.
like Good Boys,
Good
right?
Boys, 2019. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that
yes.
is Gene Stupnitsky.
Yeah, so Gene Stupnitsky would be your director because in terms of what you're describing, you need a good comedic director, which he also did No Hard Feelings, and he did Good Boys and Bad Teacher.
Who did? And oh my gosh. Okay, I loved Bottoms. I thought that movie was really funny. That was directed by Emma oh my gosh, Seligman, Seligman. So, and she's Canadian. So there you go. She did Shiva Baby and Bottoms.
Less in the background though. I mean, I gotta say, Gene Stupnitsky, he's got 3 pretty awesome comedies here on that list, and we get.
What does he have? He has
No Hard Feelings, Good Boys, and Bad Teacher.
Okay, but I feel like those aren't like indie comedies.
No, but he directed the Hello Ladies TV show with Stephen Merchant and the one movie they did, which is sort of like an awkward kind of comedy about kind of his life. And he also, so he's done like, I feel like he's done what would work for you. I feel like he could pull the indie hat on.
But okay, so for people who've searched Bottoms online, the movies that came up are Booksmart, But I'm a Cheerleader, Theater Camp, and Lady Bird. Which are much closer.
Wait, did she direct Theater Camp?
No, that's not. I don't think that's the director, but that's like similar vibes.
Oh, that you're
like
going
in
for.
terms of, so Theater Camp was
Molly Gordon and Nick Lieberman.
But it's that like similar. You know who directed Hamlet 2?
Oh, that. Yeah, okay.
Now
so
we're
that's
the
genre. Hamlet 2. That's Andrew Fleming who did that. Now I don't know what else Andrew Fleming's done. We'll quickly look up Andrew Fleming, but he directed Hamlet 2. Okay,
but he did, he directed Arrested
Nancy Drew. And the Arrested Development, The Craft. He's done episodes of the TV show The Craft, a couple horror movies. But looks like his other big like movies were like he did Nancy Drew. So yeah, I mean
Hamlet 2 and The Craft. That's
Hamlet
pretty,
2 and The Craft. There you go.
That's pretty close.
Okay. So we got Andrew Fleming is directing Florence Pugh in a biopic about you.
Love it. Chef's kiss.
Yeah, I don't know who would play me.
Also, I feel like yours would be more of a dramedy.
Yeah, it would be a dramedy. And again, you're looking for someone who can kind of play the gambit of like 28 to 38, which is a wider range. Maybe you need 2 people. I don't know. It would be tough.
I'm trying to
And director is hard because I don't know what it's harder to nail down.
What about a Josh Hutcherson?
I don't know who that is.
He's in the Hunger Games. He plays Petra in the Hunger Games. He's 32. They could probably age him up. You don't know, Josh.
I'm looking at him now. Now I recognize him. He could probably play younger. Probably.
He could play the young version, and then you could do the older one.
We got to see a photo with him with a beard. Does he have a beard in anything? No,
I
he's
don't
always clean
think.
shaven. You gotta have a beard.
Yeah. And
Oh no,
I
there's a
guess
photo of him with a beard. Okay, yeah. All right. So Josh Hutcherson, fine. We can accept that. The director
oh,
to me
I
is
see a
harder
picture of
because
him. I see a picture of him older with a mustache, Mike. Yep.
yeah,
That
okay,
yeah.
yeah. So we got that. All right. So Josh Hutcherson will play me in this biopic. The director's harder because I feel like you need a director who can kind of toe that line between comedy and you know who I think would be really interesting is someone like Ben Stiller, who
Okay.
is a very interesting director. Now he I think goes into the like absurd humor really fast, but he's directing all the episodes of that Severance TV show, which is a drama. So I feel like he's capable of it.
Here's one for you. Alexander Payne. And
Okay.
he did the Holdovers movie, which was like a was a dramedy, in my
Mm.
opinion. He
Mm-hmm.
did Election,
Oh
About
yeah,
Schmidt,
election. Yeah,
Sideways, The
yeah.
Descendants,
The
Nebraska,
Descendants.
Downsizing, and The Holdover. And he's doing a Jeannie Bassinger biopic
Okay.
documentary. But anyways, I feel like that could maybe, especially with Election and The Holdovers, he could
Yep.
maybe do it.
Yep.
But
I could see that.
yeah.
I could see that. Okay. Well, there you go. There's our answers. That guy, the Hunger Games dude, in the comedy dramedy that is my life.
Yeah.
Great.
There you go.
Okay. Next question comes from Elliot. And Elliot is wondering, what is your favorite genre of movie? And has there ever been a movie in that genre that you just think defines that genre in whatever way you wish?
Sorry, ask that question again.
What is your favorite genre of movies? And is there one movie that you would say would define that genre? And he says in any way you wish. I think he means like use whatever you want to justify that it defines that genre.
Okay, you answer first while I think about this one.
Well, I think my favorite genre would still probably be comedy. Like I think a really good comedy to me hits more than anything else. Like superhero movies, I do still like a lot, but I think to me my favorite genre to me has to be comedy because I think when you really hit with a comedy, it can stick with you. Like a lot of the movies you and I bring up are comedies.
Sure,
Like I think
yeah.
we're always talking about them. So to me, that hits well. And I think this is a bit of a stretch, but I think one that really, to me, defines like satire and comedy in a certain way is Galaxy Quest.
Mm.
I think it really holds up today. You don't have to know the source material to appreciate and love that movie, which is something that I think some movies don't do very well. Like you have to be so ingrained in order to get it. You don't have to have seen Star Trek to know tropes and to know that they're making fun of Star Trek and sci-fi and all these things to enjoy the movie. I think you enjoy it to a next level. But I think one of the best comedies would be something like that. And it goes the same with something like Young Frankenstein, where it's very much parodying something specific, but it does such a good job of you don't really have to have seen a single Frankenstein movie to understand what they're doing, and they make it work. So I think those are examples to me of like the quintessential comedies, and they really help define that genre.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned satire spoofs because the first thing that came to mind was kind of mockumentaries
Hmm.
or satire, like comedy satires. And the first movie that came to mind was Best in Show, where it's a mockumentary following all of the people at a dog show, like the people who are showing their dogs. Have you seen that, Mike?
Best in Show.
By
Is that
Christopher
a
Guest.
Christopher Guest movie?
Yeah, it's a
Yeah. Okay.
Christopher
I think I
Guest
have.
movie.
I think I have seen it. Yeah.
So and by no means am I saying like, is that the best comedy? Is that my favorite comedy? But I feel like it is really a good example of that genre of like the mockumentary satire, which funnily enough, like that's what I'm kind of drawn towards answering. Like I think of also the Austin Powers movies, which are so silly, but just a lot of fun. Like my favorite movies are kind of stupid comedies that are a lot of fun, poking fun at serious things. So that would maybe be my favorite genre. I feel like we don't actually in recent years we haven't reviewed a lot of comedies, Mike, and I don't there's this whole discourse that you can't make a comedy anymore, so like maybe that's why. I feel like the last couple comedies I've reviewed have not been great. So this is kind of a hard question to answer. But I'm going to say if I have to pick a favorite, it's that like stupid satire comedy. That's like I even it reminds me of what's that movie? They're at a summer camp and they made it into a TV show too. Oh my god!
Oh, it's the one. It's a
Wet Hot
Wes
American
Anderson
Summer.
one. Yeah. Oh no, that one. Yeah.
Wet Hot American Summer. These ones to me just are so funny, and it's making fun of genre conventions. I really like those ones. I also really like the horror genre, but now that I'm older, I'm gonna say comedy. But please, people, direct me towards a good recent comedy, because last year 2024 was not great for the comedic genre.
Our next question comes from Adrian, who says, I really enjoy listening to both of you tell your interesting stories about your experiences going to the movie theater. So my question is, when was the last time you went to a movie theater to see a movie, and any interesting stories?
Well, the last time I went to the theater, and I told this story on the podcast, was going to see Nosferatu a couple days after Christmas, and the family deciding to sit one seat over from Dan, not even one seat over from Dan and I. Literally, they bought tickets directly beside our tickets, which is absolute insanity, Mike, in this day and age. It wasn't and I know I've told this story, but I got a gripe. It wasn't like the theater was full, Mike. Like, you would have been able to look at the screen and been like, yep, we are willfully choosing the seats.
But they wanted to be in the center. Is that the idea?
I guess it was so weird. Like, why didn't you pick 2 seats down? You know what I mean? And then the guy just under his breath, like, hating on the movie so hard and like sucking his teeth. So that was the last time I've been to theater. And for newer listeners of the show, I don't get to go to the theater very often because I really prioritize my time with my son on the weekends because I work during the week. So Dan and I don't get a chance to go to the movies a lot. So I watch typically streaming movies while my son naps. So that's why I don't get to go to the theater often. And Dan also doesn't really love modern movies. So if I know he's not going to like the movie, I'm like, oh, I don't know. Am I going to waste my date afternoon by going to see a movie he doesn't like?
Yeah.
So he's not wrong. Most movies are not good. Anyways, that's my recent. Mike, when was the last time you went to the theaters?
I guess it would have been to see Companion. No real story around that. Fun. So I think the only like really good movie going experience that I've had that has like a good story behind it was the Planet of the Apes one.
That's the story that keeps giving.
That's the story, yeah.
And you can edit out what I said about the circumstances.
Yeah, I'm way ahead of you. You do not worry about that. I'm way ahead of you on the editing front there, Taylor. That was almost as bad as you telling everyone where Katie Wilson works and lives and what her greatest fears are.
Yeah. But you know what? I leave it all out, Mike. So I forget.
You just didn't remember that we talked about that off air.
That's the problem. That was the problem. I wasn't trying to rat you out. I forgot. And
rat me out. I haven't done anything wrong. Rat me out.
Keep all this in though.
I'm keeping all this in, but just so people know, what I cut out was not a bad thing. I did nothing wrong.
Next question.
I was going to finish my story. Yeah, so I would say the most recent experience was the Planet of the Apes story. I have had several incidences where something ridiculous has happened at the movies, such as like the Clifford the Big Red Dog story. There's lots of little things that happen. But I will say my most recent movie experience, there wasn't really anything like strange out of the ordinary. It wasn't a packed theater, which was, fine what it was. It was a kind of a crummy day, though. And the theater was a little far away. So it was kind of a pain to get to. I guess that's kind of a story. But nothing happened in the theater that
Got
is
it.
worth kind of this question. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Let's move forward. I'm going to have to highly redact and edit that section. Next question comes from Zach, who wants to know, oh, Jesus, what are your life plans?
Are you spoofing me, or is this a real?
That's the question. I'm reading the question that's on
What
here.
are our life plans?
What are your life plans?
I plan on doing this podcast until I'm 6 feet in the ground. Life plans. You know what? I was at a Christmas party and I was talking about my life, like as you do at at a party. Like, you talk about your work, where you live, whatever. And I was like, not to be obnoxious, but my life's pretty sweet. I love my house. I live exactly where I want to live. I have a perfect and great family, husband and kid. Absolutely love my job. And yeah, so sorry people, because I think at parties people kind of expect you to, I don't know, like, not, I think it's in vogue to kind of be a complainer. And I was like, no, I'm bucking the trend. My life is pretty sweet. So my life plans would be to continue living where I live, to continue working where I work. Just pouring into and loving my boys, and we'll go from there. That's my life plan, Mike. Watch some hopefully good movies.
You're one of those happy people.
Do I have to remind you though that I feel like I'm entitled to my happiness after
Everyone's
my
entitled to happiness.
2022?
Absolutely. Everyone's entitled to their happiness. What are my life plans? I'm currently in Ottawa, and I plan on sticking out here for a couple more years. But I'm kind of doing some theater art stuff, and I'm trying to see if I can get that part of my career rolling again. And if I can, I might stick around. I do like Ottawa. It's a pleasant place. I liked it more than I thought I would. I'll just drop everything. Yeah, if not, I'm gonna move to somewhere else. Toronto, probably.
Yeah, would you do another big city? You wouldn't move back to Kingston?
Yeah, like I would do I would go to a Toronto type place, but I think if I'm being completely honest, if it doesn't work out in Ottawa, I might do something more major. Like I might go to New York City or something.
Ooh.
Like I might really be like, okay, I'm gonna take a leap.
If I'm doing it, I'm doing it.
If I'm doing it, I'm doing it.
Your answer is much more interested in mine.
Yeah, but again, there's a lot of, if I'm more comfortable in Ottawa, and if all the things that I've been doing that I'm enjoying doing continue going well, then I'll stick around. But I think Toronto or another big sort of arts center is probably, it's not a 0% chance that I would end up in that kind of place.
They would have more opportunities.
Yes. And I think also if you want to make sort of a career of it, there's more opportunities there. Whereas where I am right now, you really have to create your own opportunities, which I do love doing. But I don't know if I could see myself doing what I'm doing now well into my 60s. You know what I mean?
Who has the energy?
Exactly. So I feel like it's like, oh, I get something established now while I have the energy. And then over the next couple of years, it grows into something and I can carve out a role for myself and it works. So you stick around. And if not, you go, okay, I've done my own thing for a while. I've tried to create my own thing. Now it's time to go apply to do someone else's thing and, have kind of a career in that sense. So yeah, I think that's probably my life plan. I don't know. So there's more in there I won't say. but I would say that's what I'm comfortable sharing.
Cool.
Okay. Next question. Okay. Next question.
Mike says, and skip.
I'm going to skip that one. Next question comes from Kendra, who says, I'm really interested to know a little bit more about your movie habits before you even had this podcast. Were you always watching a movie a week? Were you always movie lovers? Or did you force yourself to watch more?
It's so hard to think back to that time. No, I definitely watched a movie a week. Maybe sometimes more. I was in grad school. I had a lot of time to go where and when I wanted. So I don't know if I was going to the theater every week, but I certainly was watching a movie, whether it was new or a rewatch. There was a time in university where I would borrow a movie from my film professor every week. So I definitely, almost giving myself like a little film education. So always been a big movie buff. Grew up in a family that loved movies. Yeah, very natural. So I wouldn't say that I forced myself to watch more movies. I had to force myself to watch new movies. Because Mike, I don't know if you agree with me. There are some weeks where there's movies that don't look particularly good or I'm not particularly interested. So whereas in the past I would just rewatch a favorite movie, now it's like, nope, you really have to watch a new one for content. So that's the only major change.
Yeah, I would agree. I watch lots of movies. I'll always watch lots of movies. I don't think my movie watching habit has changed much with this show. The new thing is there's an outlet to kind of talk about it, and there's editing work. So
and streaming is new because streaming wasn't really so much a thing when we were in university.
Yeah, like no, streaming's definitely new. Yeah,
you would rent a movie or do other things to find the movies you need.
Yeah, streaming really helped make this all possible. And yeah, it has been such a long time since we haven't done this show. So it's been over 7 years now.
It's hard to remember the before times. But the reason why we started the show was because we both loved movies. So it wasn't we had to force ourselves to watch it. How horrible would that be, Mike, if you were like, we have to start a podcast. What are we going to do? Well, watching movies is easy, but we hate movies. That would be crazy.
We would not do this.
And it's certainly not for this long.
Okay, next question here comes from Kat. And Kat says, I've heard quite a bit about this show, about moments where both of you have made the other person watch something or view something that they weren't interested in. You've also seemed to have brought in guests, and then in brackets, I guess I missed those episodes, where the guests have brought in movies and suggested movies, and you've had to watch them, and you've also either liked them or hated them, depending upon what they are. But it seems like you do like to torture each other a little bit. Do you have any fond memories of moments where you've made the other person watch a film that you knew they were going to hate, or that if someone came on the show and brought a film that you had to watch that you also ended up hating?
Anytime Tyler Vance has come on the show, it's pretty memorable because his movies are pretty
usually
wild.
Trash.
I do want to say it was Kat, I think, who wrote this question. We haven't had the chance as much in, I think, our You Had Me at Skip It to do these type of episodes. This definitely was from the time in the before times of our old show, which is essentially the exact same format as this show, but
yeah, you say the old show as if we've changed a lot. It's pretty much the
exact same show, but I would say that in this more recently, Mike, we haven't had as many guests. And we certainly haven't had an episode where we forced each other to watch movies that we don't like. So all that to say, if Kat may not have missed any episodes, she may not it might be that she hasn't listened to our back catalog is what I'm trying to say.
That's right.
So Kat, you haven't really missed anything, but if you're interested in those episodes, you can find them under our old title, Screening in Kingston. But anyways, there's that. So my answer would be anytime Tyler Vance comes on. I feel like Katie Wilson came on at one point and I had to watch a space movie with Tom Hanks, but maybe she didn't recommend that movie and I'm just conflating memories because she likes Tom Hanks and she likes space movies. But I remember I really didn't like that movie.
We made you watch Apollo 13, but I think that was fan requested.
Okay. Separate from Katie Wilson. But
yeah.
So, but I wouldn't say that was fond memories. I just remember having to watch that movie and definitely not liking it. I don't think I've ever been pleasantly surprised.
I think some of my fond memories are the movies from a hat. Like
That's
that
fun.
was fun. But I think the 4 week series we did, where
Mhm.
it was Tyler, Nicole, you, and me, and
Yep.
each week we each of us picked a different movie
Mhm.
because that was during in the like the heart of the pandemic. So we had like a Tyler Vance week, a you week, a me week, like a Nicole week, and we had these like four more obscure films. I think
Yep.
is what we was the theme. That was a pretty fun experience because you kind of never knew what you were getting, and each week was kind of torturous. But I think I don't know. My favorite memory of you having to do this would be watching the pilot episode of Star Trek Enterprise.
And having no
And
frame of reference.
yeah, that's right. That was a fun episode because Tyler and I just listening to you like explain the plot of it. It was really
I mean,
fun.
like, why are they sensually showering?
That's
To
They weren't showering, but that was to they got to get the decompress. It's like a gel that when you go on the planets, you might have pathogens. You gotta get this kind of gel. I understand your
sure.
confusion, but it wasn't a shower. Anyway, yeah, like those sorts of moments, we thought were pretty funny. So like, I think that's one of my favorite memories. And I've been tortured more than once on this show with having to watch some very very not great movies.
A lot
So
of, like you said, a lot of movies from a hat, which was from COVID times. Just
that's right.
no new content was being put out. But you know what, Mike? We didn't miss an episode. We kept coming every week with movie reviews, even if it was a very deep, deep, deep cut. Like that movie we watched where they traveled back in time. It was archaeology dig, and they somehow got transported
Oh,
back to
timeline. You're talking about timeline. Yeah, yeah. Yes, yes. Yeah, we
Yes.
found some real obscure. That had a young Paul Walker in that
Yes.
movie. Yeah, yeah.
Interesting. We certainly watched some interesting movies during the
Oh, and
pandemic.
I don't remember what 100% because I think I remember what I made you watch, but I can't remember what you made me watch.
I
It
made you
might have
watch
been
Sweet Home Alabama. No, not Sweet
no.
Home Alabama.
It was
Where
Coal
the heart.
Miner's Wife,
Oh,
and
but no.
and no, that was for something else.
But
Where the Heart Is.
we did Where the Heart Is the one that I made.
We had it was the episode where we picked a movie purposely thinking the other one was going to hate it.
Yeah,
Like that was the idea. Because I think I picked The Patriot for you or something like
I
that.
think so. But I also had to watch the movie with Red Skull at one point.
Oh yes, you did have to watch the first Captain America movie. I don't remember the context as why, but yes, I made you watch that one too. Yeah, that was
So
good.
yes,
Yeah.
it's true. Maybe we're overdue for a torture episode by the sounds
We'll
of
have
it.
to do. Yeah, I think we'll have to do that. I think that there's definitely even maybe over the next couple of weeks because there's another bit of a lull before you really get into the movies that at
Mhm.
least I'm interested in seeing. So I feel like over the next couple of weeks we could do a torture each
Maybe
other episode.
you should watch Dirty Dancing because Dirty Dancing was one of the movies that I was going to have you watch, and then you went, "No, I've seen it before."
And
And
then
then
we discovered I haven't.
yeah, so maybe I'm locking it in already. You have to
All
watch
right.
Dirty Dancing.
Okay, I'll start thinking of a movie to make you watch.
Okay.
But yeah, it's tough because we're close enough in age that some of the movies I can think of are the movies that I really loved as a kid that probably don't hold up. But I have a feeling you've watched some of them, so I might have to give you a list and see
Hmm.
what
Like
you've
the Mighty
watched
Ducks.
together.
We've both seen Mighty Ducks.
Yeah, like we've both seen the Mighty Ducks, and like there's other ones, but yeah, okay, we'll talk about that. Oh, see, this is the great thing about these kinds of episodes. We also plan future episodes.
It's true. We do the heavy lifting. We're very good
Trust.
multitaskers.
This next question comes from, I think it's Simone. I think the name is Simone. So Simone wants to know, in terms of watching films, is there any okay. Are there any particular moments where you thought to yourself, why am I doing this? Why am I torturing myself? Why am I watching this just to talk about it on the podcast? And have you ever had a situation where you just had nothing to say and you had to make up an entire episode because you had no idea what to talk about? Well, that happens every week.
Yeah, we do absolutely zero planning aside from maybe telling each other what movies we're watching, but often we don't even know what movies each other is watching. I would say that we must both have the gift of the gab, even though I'm introverted, which I know really surprises people. Mike, are you introverted or extroverted?
I don't know.
Okay, so fair enough. I feel like even despite our dispositions, we have the gift of the gab and we have a lot of opinions. So there's never been a time where we've had to make up an episode in the sense that like make up a review or just like make up things to talk about. But there have been episodes where we're drawing things out, I think, Mike. Like when we're like, ooh, especially when we had to be 59 minutes, there were times where we were like, okay. We never would say it on air, but I could tell both of us were kind of pulling teeth to try to get to the full 59 minutes. But
Yeah.
even we can at least 30 minutes easily kill 30 minutes easily no matter what. It's the last 20 minutes that are sometimes hard.
I feel like there are certain topics, and movies are one of them, but I have a big list of them where if you're just like, oh, you have to talk about this for an hour, it's like that's not even a hard thing.
Yeah.
Like that to me, finding time to record the show is sometimes hard because of busy life. Finding an hour, that can tough. But doing the show itself is not tough. It's not hard to talk for this amount of time for an episode. What's difficult is the editing, and sometimes when you do plan out bigger things, that can become more challenging. But frankly, the actual recording of the show each week, that is not hard. That is not a challenge. It's not super difficult.
There are movies though, like the question asked, are there ever movies where you feel like you have nothing to talk about? Sure. I can't
all the
name
time,
I can't
constantly.
because most movies are not great.
That's right. Or too good where there's not much to say other than the fact that you really enjoyed it.
So maybe that's a pat on our shoulders, Mike, that we're able to just make it work. But has there ever been when I'm watching a movie thinking, why am I doing this? Why am I doing this for the content? It is very, very, very rare that I want to turn a movie off. I did not like In Her Skin. Speaking of a throwback to a Tyler Vance episode, that was part of the 4-week the 4-week session, Mike, we had where we did art house movies that we talked about earlier just now. And I'm pretty sure his movie was In Her Skin with Scarlett Johansson.
I thought his movie was Enemy.
No, that was, I think, just a different, unless we had to pick 2 movies at a time that session. Either way, that also was a very difficult movie to watch. But there was some weird nudity in Her Skin. And at the time I didn't have George. I was less of a prude, but I was watching it in my living room and in my old house. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm watching this in the middle of the weekend in the afternoon. There's these weird nudity scenes. Anyone could look into my window and wonder what wonder what I'm watching. Distinctly remember that In Her Skin being like, what am I doing?
Sorry, Under the Skin.
Under the skin. Sorry.
I knew that sounded wrong, so I looked it up.
In Her Skin, Under Her Skin.
Under Her Skin.
And there's been other times even recently where I'm like, this movie is so bad I want to turn it off, but I know I have to keep it on. It wouldn't be a fair review if I didn't watch it all the way through. But honestly, I can't. Those movies are so not memorable, Mike. By the time that the episode is done, I've completely forgotten about those movies. And then you do the year wrap, and I'm like, I watched that movie. Does that happen to you sometimes when you do the year wrap and you're like, what? When did I watch that?
At least once it's happened where I thought, when did I watch this movie? Yeah.
Yeah.
At least once, yeah.
But go ahead.
We're gonna end our fan questions there. We're gonna wrap up in a few minutes, but there are a few more that we'll get to, and we will try to make time in episodes coming forward. But again, I did want to quickly remind people how you send in fan questions because there's so many different ways. You can still go to screeninginkingston.com and fill out that form. That's not a problem. We will keep the website active even once our .com expires. We'll just change it. Might as well not spend the money unless we have to. And then otherwise, soul1arts.ca. You can find us at You Had Me at Skip It on Instagram or Facebook. Send us a message there. Or just email us at screeninginkingston@gmail.com. We can answer it there. We'll do more of these as we come through, and we will try to make an effort to make them part of our repertoire moving forward. One thing I wanted to bring up that I thought you might find interesting, Taylor, because it kind of connects to movies. Next week, I am going to go check out a local production of Grease.
Ooh.
That's happening somewhat kind of in this area. I know some people in it, so I'm going to go check it out next week. Grease was definitely a favorite movie of mine when I was a kid.
Really?
I remember watching that over and over and over.
I'm
again.
surprised just because of how much you hate movie musicals. But I guess
wasn't a bad one.
A young Mike was
That's
not
right.
as discerning.
No.
Here's the question. I'm less inclined to amateur theater than you are. Like, I guess I have we've talked about this before, Mike, where I grew up going to shows in Toronto and to Stratford. Yeah. So my idea of theater is very, I guess I have high expectations. I assume maybe these people are not at that same level.
Yeah, listen, I'll tell you this. It's a community theater production of Grease in a community center.
Okay.
So that will give you a sense as to what I'm
It'll be fun.
to. I am well aware of what I'm walking into here.
Here's a question for you, Mike. And hopefully you can answer honestly and without throwing anyone under the bus, because you direct community theater, or I guess a step above That's right. Community theater.
I do both. Yeah, I direct both. Yeah.
Do these people
have talent? Is that gonna be your question?
Do they know that they're not as talented and they're doing this for fun, or I guess sometimes I'm sure there are talented people, but sure. I wonder if maybe they have delusions of grandeur and they think they're amazing.
Yeah. It runs the gambit. Like you definitely have people who are doing this as a hobby and they love it as a hobby, and that is what it is. There are many people who believe they are greater than thou. There's many people who believe that, even though they're doing community volunteer theater, that they still should be respected as an artiste.
Right. And if the right person saw it, they would be in Toronto.
That would be another point. Yeah. If the right person saw me, I would be here. Yeah. But I think, like with anything, I think one of the thrills of working on these kinds of shows is to meet different people with different backgrounds. Sure. And I think that community theater is really interesting, but I've seen my fair share of bad community theater as well. So it's it's always an interesting experience. But yeah, I would say it runs the gambit. I would say no, for the most part, most people believe they're much better than the other. But again, one of the reasons why I bring it up is we can't do it for this one, but I think it would be really interesting one day, because you had just seen Jesus Christ Superstar not long ago.
Yeah,
I thought it would be really interesting to be able to see a stage show and the movie equivalent and do kind of a cross review. I think that would be a really cool thing if you and I were able to see the same thing and kind of talk about it. I won't do it for Grease because don't have that kind of time, and I don't want to.
I'm not traveling to the Ottawa area.
Yeah, and also, one, I wouldn't have you for this, and two, also, I just let's just
the movie you watched, Mike. And I know we have to wrap this up, but this is one last thought. This would be such an interesting premise for a movie, like a Christopher Guest movie, where it's a mockumentary about a little community theater in the suburbs putting on a play.
Oh, and I will tell you that Waiting for Guffman is a Christopher Guest movie that's kind of about a community theater.
Okay.
It has a bunch of other things, but Waiting for Guffman is a good one because they believe this like really talented, well-known actor with last name Guffman is coming to their community to watch their community show. But it's like a made up, like the person, it's kind of like a Hamlet 2 scenario where the guy makes up his own thing, played by Christopher Guest. And that's really funny, as well as theater camp. Even though it's a theater camp, it is very much community theater what they're putting on. And if you're looking for something that parodies community theater, those two movies in particular, I think really, really hit it. Waiting for Guffman and theater camp. And I will throw in Shakespeare in Love for that. The way, like, now that's, again, it's supposed to be professional traveling. Yeah, it's supposed to be. But the entire premise of that movie is Shakespeare writing Romeo and Juliet and rehearsing it. It's a lot of the scenes are behind the scenes. They even have Ben Affleck's playing the pompous actor, and like they do all this stuff, and it's very like how you put on a show. And again, it's more dated to historical real person. But again, if I were to put like a list of movies together, that would be on it. Of the kind of community theater experience. Yeah.
Cool.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for listening this week. I don't know what we're going to do next week, but we'll be back with another new episode next week.
Go see some movies.
Thank you for listening to You Had Me at Skip It, a Soul One Arts Inc. podcast. This podcast is produced by Mike Shepard and Austin Spinner Summer. It is a project of Soul One Arts Inc. To learn more about Soul One and all the great work that Soul One is doing in the arts community, especially in film, theater, and other performing arts, visit soul1arts.ca. You can contribute to this podcast by visiting soul1arts.ca and going to the podcast tab. You'll find all the information on You Had Me at Skip It and how you can get your questions read on air each week. Thank you again for listening.